Thanks for joining us on Worldwide Slot Car Chat number 128. I'm your host, Greg Galb, and we've gangs all here with John and Mike and Tony and Wayne and Dennis and Scott and Don and Steve and Paul and Courtney and Wayne and Dewan and Alan and Garth and Jim and more people. What should we do today? Let's talk slot cars. So let's start with show and tell. If you have a show and tell item you want to show and or tell about, raise your virtual hand and we'll be sure and get to you. And then we'll talk about other things. So first on my list is Tony P. Go ahead, Mr. Petrucci.
Evening all.
Evening.
And not the staff is to blame, but those with
I'm going to turn your radio off.
if you are blood group O,
There we go. What you got?
This turned up today.
Oh, nice.
New scale auto.
Just one?
Is that
Oh, no,
is that the Mansell version or the Frost version?
I wanted to order two, but I was up tight on my credit card, so I thought I'd just take the one for the moment, and when I settle, they come down a bit, and I'll buy the other one later.
Dennis wants to know which version is that.
It's 90 and 97.
Which driver?
Yeah, which driver?
I don't know.
Does it say on the sticker?
I think that's Mansell, isn't it?
It's White Helmet. It's not Mansell. It shouldn't be
Oh.
Mansell.
International Stock Race. No, I ain't got no driver on this.
It may be Paul Generic.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Is there a number on the body?
It's a number 2.
Does this have the driver's name on it, on the side?
That's what he was looking for.
Not on the car, no.
Don't worry.
You see, weight is so simple.
Don't worry
What?
about it.
I guess it doesn't have a driver on it. No biggie, Tony. Don't worry about it. All right. Yeah, have anything else to show, Tony?
No, that's it for this week.
All righty.
No credit on the card, so I've got stuck.
Well, next time you get some credit, I'm sure we'll see a new car.
Yes, you will.
Thanks,
Maybe
thanks for showing, Tony. And Mike, you're next.
4 or 5 new cards.
This is for Chris and Dennis. It's my first brass chassis in 60 years.
Good job.
Good for you, Predator.
The
I wondered what all that
handles-
stuff was up front, but of course it's the chip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Digital brass car. That's the first time for me, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. The chassis handles really well because it's so narrow, and the body, which is this one. Oop, there we go. Is pretty top heavy, so the thing is tippy. It's got a little bit too much grip, and I got to figure out how to dial that out. It doesn't slide, it tips. So I may have to put urethane tires on it to give it a little slip.
What have you got on there now? Rub?
G25
Okay.
slot cut down.
Yeah. One of the things you could probably do is reduce the ground clearance a little at the back, maybe with the tires a little smaller. It replace the whole interior with a Lexan interior.
That's already done.
Oh, that's already done.
Yep.
That's
So-
good though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun car. It goes nearly as fast as the Revoslot Alpha and Escort. So it will be eventually, I hope, competition for them,
Good for you.
which is what the idea was.
Does that have the windows in that, Mike? Is that like a one-piece window, like all the windows all together?
Yes, it is, but there's the strips in between had been previously cut out.
Okay.
So there's just, it's glued, the windows are glued in with bare minimum up on the top.
Okay.
So I have to, I probably have to take the interior out and probably destroy it because it's made out of old Scalextric digital cards that come with the plastic blister on them, and put a new one in, and probably grind out the top quite a bit to try and do that, and eliminate as much as possible the upper portions of the body itself, because the body's like 26 grams for a small car, and it's pretty tall. It's a lot taller than the Alpha and the Escort.
Yeah.
And there isn't any room to bring the tires out any further. It's box flares, but it's probably more realistic than some of the other cars that are box flares, or it's an early box flare version. I don't know for sure, but it was an interesting thing to do. I think what I'm going to do in the future is on the front plate that I've got here. I'm going to use the mounts, these mounts for adjustable
Yeah.
in the
Oh,
front.
yeah.
And that way I'll just have a flat plate and drill the holes in it and set it up, and I'll have adjustable front end.
Mhm.
And I think that would be helpful.
Well, that's gonna
Also,
be-
I think I can raise the guide tongue a bit to get it down lower in the front. I've got close to 2 millimeters clearance, I think. So
Oh, yeah, you got to get rid of that.
Yeah.
Can you
could probably-
show me the bottom again, Mike, of the chassis? Okay. Yeah, what have you done for the front guide tongue? Have you mounted that below the cross?
yes, it's done mounted below and it should be above.
Yeah, if you mount it above, you'll find you can drop the whole front end.
Mhm.
And the use of those adjustable front uprights would be great. Not only for balancing the car left or right, but certainly track to track for raised rails or recessed braid. That'll be a big
Mhm.
help as well.
Yeah.
Other thing to do would be to put some spaces between the chassis and the pod so that you raise the whole pod up.
Yeah.
Or drop the chassis down, and that'll drop the body down, because
That drops the center of gravity down. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
how's
Yeah,
the chassis
so-
held onto the body?
It's screwed. You can see the one
Uh-huh.
there,
Good.
And
So it's from the
two-
chassis point, not
two
from
on the
the
side, the
two in the
holes.
front and one at the back. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
not the pod. So if you space the pod up, that's going to drop everything down.
Yeah, that's a good idea. In fact, I may not have to change the guide well, no, I have to change that anyway.
Yeah, you
think
want to get the front as
this will be
low as
too
you
high.
can. Yeah.
Okay,
Getting the front down low is very important.
okay. I'll
Good for
keep
you,
that-
Michael. Good job.
Yeah, great.
And thanks for showing that off.
We look forward to the next one next week, Mike.
Yeah. Or the
I'm
change.
going-
to
I'm
that one,
going camping for a week, so there
Hey.
won't be any next week at all.
Greg, back to Don's showing. Scale Alto says number 1 is the Prost car and number 2 is the Mansell car.
Ah, okay. Cool.
Even
Then
though
at least you know which helmet to buy. You know, so
Yeah.
But they both are shown with white helmets.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though Nigel never drove a Ferrari with a number 2 on it, but that's beside the point.
Apparently, accuracy is not a priority for them.
No. And if you really want to get funky, get one of those Interlagos Mansell helmets and plop.
Yeah,
it.
that's what I'm
That'll look
thinking.
Great.
and then make up some proper numbers for Mansell's car. What did he run there? I don't remember.
27.
Need a 7 then.
Yeah, you just need to.
Just slap a
Wow.
7 on there next to the 2.
Yeah, and have everything lopsided, drive you nuts.
Where's the Sharpie?
Could it drive you and I nuts? Yeah, no, we're not trumpets here. We don't use Sharpies on things.
All right.
Chris, I've been looking at some of your chassis builds online for the Formula One cars that you've
Some
got.
of mine.
No, not some of Chris Walker's.
Oh, Chris's.
He's been posting them on slot form on some of the things. And what's the difference in the designs on them? And you've got a couple of them that are plate designs and one of them that's panel wire in between, sort of twisty. Because I was thinking I've got some older Formula One cars that are useless right now. But if I put a decent chassis on them, get some weight on them, they might be decent.
Yep. If you really want to get adventurous, the ones with the central piano wire rod, those are called flexi board chassis.
Okay.
And they, depending on how you, what thickness and length of torsion bars on the outside of the chassis you put on, you can regulate the twist, the torsional twist in the chassis.
Mhm.
And if you get the twist in the right, if you get the right flex for the tires, the motor, and the chassis, it really makes a big difference.
It is, judging from my past experience, a flexible chassis is more apropos for my track.
Yes, the slower tighter tracks you have and the less grip you have, the softer flex works better. That's also related to motor power and tire power. So when you get up to, commercial type tracks with really grippy tires and really powerful motors, the chassis gets stiffer all the way up.
Okay. Speaking of commercial tracks and wood tracks and stuff, I also posted one of the heats from the LMP race that I did Saturday. We did three. We did stock car, retro, and LMPs. And so I only posted one heat because it's boring as heck. Basically, you see these blurs moving around since they're doing 3.1 to 3.2 second laps. It's crazy. But anyway, if anybody wants to look at that, it's on the channel.
All right, good stuff. Let's move on to Mr. Clark. Go ahead, Dewan.
Oh, well, good afternoon to most people, I guess. I just picked up a vintage limited edition Scalextric set. This is it was released in 2003, but it's the Le Mans 1966 3-pack. It has the
Oh yeah, with the race worn.
The winners.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Now, one of the key reasons why I'm bringing this up is because everything I do is in 4s. So I need the fourth place was a Porsche. Oh gosh, I can't remember now. And I was wondering, does anyone know if there is a slot car build of the fourth place in the Le Mans 66 when the GT40s
Either a 908 or a 910, I think.
Yeah, but is there a slot car already that's kind of in the same class as this?
Isn't that the MRC? Didn't they have one?
Fly has a 908 and a 910.
No idea. I'm looking for your expertise on what's been released over these decades.
I mean,
the actual car is a 906. It finished 4th, 5th.
Oh, is it a 906?
4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Yes.
Fly makes one of those for sure.
Yeah.
Well, the question is, did they make it in the livery that finished fourth?
That would be ideal. That would be ideal, as well as if it was a Scalextric in the same breed. So
Michael's got one.
that is it. It's
a 906, yeah.
But that's not the fourth. That wasn't the fourth. That was.
I don't know whether the livery is correct or not,
Okay.
but that's what you're looking for as far as the car goes.
But is that a Scalextric or a Fly?
No, it is a Fly, so it would be comparable to it's a Sidewinder.
That number finished. I'm not sure if it's the right livery, but the number 58 finished 7th in the race.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you got the Fly, the performance would be comparable to the Scalextrics.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be a bad choice.
Okay.
But now, yeah, finding the fourth place livery is the trick. Anybody find that already? So we know what we're looking for?
And Dewan, even
That was number 30, that at least I know.
okay, the Porsches of that era really didn't have funky paint jobs on them anyway. They're pretty simple, pretty basic. So you could always paint one up fairly easily.
And it's not really that serious. I just kind of wanted to, be in the.
If it's out there and you can buy it, you want to go ahead and buy it, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Well, everybody keep a lookout if anybody knows if it's available somewhere.
Well, I did have another question. It's not quite part of the show and tell, but I think I mentioned that I'm taking apart these the Camaro Z28s, and one of the key things that I'm having trouble with is detaching. And I heard Chris just ask Mike about the windshield, the windows. So all four windows are one. I don't know if you can really see the detail in there, but I'm trying to detach this so that I can then scrape and get the whole body submerged, so I can get rid of the paint and put it the scheme that I want on here. And I can't really. I'm trying not to break it, and I may have to just go ahead and do that and put in all four pieces independently afterwards. But is there a trick to this?
To cutting them apart or getting them out?
Patience. Just be patient, honestly. And the other thing that will dissolve it depends whether it's been glued or heat sealed, because sometimes they use heat pins. But if it's glue, believe it or not, even butane will take out the glue.
Those are mostly just heat welded.
Yeah, that's what I think. There should be heat pins, which would make it even easier. Yeah.
I think
Ski Electrics has started putting the side windows without a recessed into the window opening. So you may have to press the side windows in carefully to bring it loose after you've gotten the melted parts, which are usually on the top itself, on the very top of the car. If you look, there's blobs.
They've got any melted parts. I think they just clip in nowadays.
Yeah, it could be they just tip in, but
generally, you're right about the
if
side
you
windows.
squeeze the side windows in, you can get them to come out.
Okay.
Is it not obvious, Dwan? It looks to me like there might be a clip at the bottom of the rear windscreen.
Rear and the front.
There's a little clip front and rear in the center.
Yeah, there is a clip in the rear and in the front, and I've depressed those clips. And that's what I thought it was going to be pretty simple to come out and click out, but it's definitely some kind of way bonded in.
Then it'd be the side windows, like Mike says.
Yeah.
And by the way, that number 30, the fourth place in 66, that 906 was a long tail.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a long tail.
And it was the white
It's a long tail. Jim found
blue.
the same photo that I found. So it's a long tail. And I don't know that anybody has ever made a 906 long tail.
Wow.
They do have them available, as I think George Turner has them.
Oh, okay. So either George or somebody like
Le
Mans Miniatures or somebody like that.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the number 30,
there,
the top one, the blue one. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now, how does anyone know how that would stack up with the Ski Electric?
The early
if it was a fly car, they would stack up well, because the Fly 906 is actually quite a nice little car.
Yeah.
Well, you could do the 330 P4. I mean, that was in the race, just didn't finish fourth.
Yeah. And P4s are easy to find.
Okay. All right.
It fits the movie better.
Somebody was holding up a car a minute ago, and then somebody did.
That was Mike. He had the Fly version, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did everybody see that?
No, not that one. Somebody else was holding up like a box.
Okay.
But
when I look at it, all I can see is those hideous rear wheels, Mike.
Yeah.
Get some inserts in there.
Coming off. That's part of the revamp. As I go through the old cars that I screwed up when I was just starting, that's one of the things that are going to happen.
All right. Next up is Mr. Young.
Just so you know, Chris, I have the inserts made.
No, you're just being lazy.
Yeah, well, it was built for go, not for show, right?
Right.
It looks like one of those old 60s cars that you get off eBay that's got some or other big ass silicones on the molded
Right.
silicones on the back,
Yeah.
right? Where somebody's cut out the wheel arches and put in something that's about 3 times too big.
All right, Don, what you got?
Well, I've been kind of quiet over the past couple of months, but I haven't been totally idle. The car that I purchased several months ago that I told you all about that I was going to work on, I have been working on.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that looks great.
Very cool.
Love it.
Very nice.
So that's what I've been doing.
What kind of
That thing's
chassis
got-
did you put under it?
Plenty ground clearance. You could drive a bus under that.
It basically has one of these under it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Oh, you put the
Uh,
Revell
the
chassis
M-
under it.
The MRRC kit car or whatever. What did they call it?
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
It's like a universal, totally adjustable thing.
Ladder chassis.
Yeah.
And
They
then
work fine.
some of the other projects that I have been working on, and I have told you about, my garbage collecting. Well, some of the stuff that I got actually several years ago, I have finally found enough of the parts to actually assemble some
Oh,
of it.
cool.
I still need the drop arm on this one, but one
Is
of
that a
the,
stressed member, that motor?
what's that?
Is the motor part of the chassis?
Yes,
Yeah.
That's
it
cool.
is. One of the big problems in trying to rebuild stuff like this is actually finding a motor that will work with them. And there seems to be a rather short supply of old 16Ds, whether Bell or can size drive. And so some of my searches over the past several months has been trying to find motors that will work with all of these empty chassis that I have. Well, I ran across a deal the other day that I jumped on, and I got some of these. Now, this is an FT16. And for the most part, it's really close to most of the other manufacturers, but it has one really peculiar aspect about it. And that this part is humongous compared to everybody else's that are out there.
Right.
And
is that one of the ones where the spring posts are the other way around to the regular ones too?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, they're mirror image for some strange reason. So the
But,
springs are different.
They work well, and
Oh.
I got several of them for less than $3 a piece. So
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I figured the price made it worth the buy. And, taking one of these old pieces like this and making that hole bigger is not really that big a deal. But
Right. Those are
Anyway.
those are great motors, Don.
well, I hope so.
Oh, they
I
are.
got several of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is that what that stress motor was you showed a second ago?
Yes.
Yeah. Unlike most of the FT16Ds of the time, these have stronger magnets in them, so they run a little cooler and a little bit nicer.
But other than trying to, the can side, all of that fitting that's all perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, that fit everything. So
You just got to be sure that those little tabs that hold the end belt to to the can are really tight, because that's the only thing connecting the front wheels to the rear wheels of the car.
But that's basically all I got for
But
right
those
now.
are cool. Very nice.
Good deal. And you got lots of spares now.
Did you find them on eBay, or where did you find them?
Yeah, they were on eBay, and actually what I bid on them, I didn't figure I would win the bid, but I did, and now I own them, so.
Cool.
I was quite surprised.
And was it in a slot car category, or was it somewhere else?
Yeah, it was a slot car category.
Oh, nice.
Well, as long as you're not bidding on Revell track, you're pretty safe from Dewan.
Yeah, Dewan's the guy.
I haven't been buying track, just car parts.
It was that slot car stolen parts section.
All right, thanks for showing off, Don. And Brian would have been next, but it looks like he took his hand down. Hopefully you come back with whatever you wanted to share, Brian. So I guess next up is Mr. Crawley. Go ahead, John.
Hey guys, how you doing? I picked up this week the new Benetton NSR Formula One. See it there?
Isn't that a gorgeous car?
It is a gorgeous paint job.
Oh, they did a fantastic job on that one. Really pretty.
Especially the 1/43rd scale driver's helmet.
Yeah, well, that comes off and puts and you put a. I can't remember who drove that car now.
I think it was Alessandro Nannini. I think
Nannini, Nannini, and also I think one year.
Adam Mitchell or Giacomelli or something.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I got.
Nice.
All right, so order up that correct helmet and show us next week.
Yeah, and remember when you drive that car, try to experiment with the pod mounting screws, the ones that are on the side of the pod. Right, there's one up front and two on the side, right? But there are extra holes at the rear end of the pod so that you could put the screws at the back. Yeah, those ones.
Right.
And it makes quite a difference to the handling of the car.
Okay. And do you tighten them down, or you still keep?
No. You still need to just loose. There must just be a little bit of slide and movement on the pod, but there may be half a turn at maximum on all the screws. But having them at the back rather than halfway down does make a difference to the way the car handles.
Now, what I have done is I've kept it where the ride is high and the front wheels aren't touching as much. You can see they're shinier than the rear wheels that have been sanded in.
Yeah, they always will be.
Yeah, but it handles quite well.
Oh, they are nice. They're very nice.
All right, good stuff, John. And next up is Henry. Go ahead.
Yo. I was last week on a race, and was watching two Wonder Boy, Sebastian, how he's building his car, and I saw that he was a lot of spending time with the balancing of the tires and the crown wheel, and I thought, yeah. And I saw Alan did 150 shows before this, but I made a 3D one, and as you can see, it will stop at the end where the screw is.
Where the grub screw is, the weight is the heaviest part.
Yeah. And so you replace the crown gear, and you get your tire on, and it is the same.
Welcome to the rabbit hole.
Yeah. And I was on the club and I showed it, and there were several people that wanted also one. So I'm looking for, this is a little bit big, but I'm going to post on this one glass, and I have to find it for a Microsoft from a microscope, something like that. And that, if you can see this, so that you can push it to the front, to the back So you can adjust the amount of power of the magnet.
And then how does that lock in place?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's not correct yet, but that's a little bit fiddly.
We usually do that with a threaded, with a bolt. You pass a bolt through a threaded hole there.
Oh, yeah.
Glue the magnet to the end of the bolt, and then outside of the device, you just turn the thread and push it through the wall.
Yeah, I can make it also like a screw in 3D printed.
As long as the bolt is steel, you wouldn't even need to glue it.
No. It's not supposed to glue.
No, for the magnet to the end of the bolt, like Wayne was saying, you could glue it, but you wouldn't have to.
That's correct. Yeah. So I just found it's a magnificent machine, and if you see what a difference it makes.
Emery, I'll be interested in one.
Sorry?
I'll be interested in one of those, Emery.
Of course, of course. And ×4.
It just needs H&B printing on it then.
Of course. If I come to the club and they want to have 7 of them, I say, yeah, that's work. I don't know what you think about it, but yeah, I want it with the magnets and with the steel bar. So do you think I have nothing to do over here?
For a racer like yourself, Henry, that's a very, very useful tool. I spend a lot of time with mine.
Do they make titanium set screws? Does somebody make titanium set screws? Because that would reduce the weight quite a bit.
It does help, but hollow ones and very short ones are probably all you need.
Yeah.
Or even 2 opposing ones if you get the correct gears.
And a lot of stuff, if you're using the 2mm screws, like a lot of the 132nd scale cars do, then it doesn't take much to get the balance back.
Correct, Dennis. Correct. And
you can also remove some material from the plastic gear adjacent to the screw and make that side of the gear light.
Yeah. I've seen also they put some tape in it on the other side of the direction. So
if it's the wheel, you put some tape in it. Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
But I mean, the very first thing that you ever want to do is get rid of as much inherent imbalance as you can. So the set screw is the first place to look. Yeah. Once you've got the set screw done, on a gear, there's not much more you can do, except, as John said, just start taking, or as Wayne said, just start taking out a little bit of the plastic next to it. When you get to the wheel, you start with the set screw, and then you make sure that it's round, and then you put the tire on it. And when you got the tire on, then you start with tape on the inside of the wheel.
Yeah.
Well, you make sure that you true the tire first.
Oh yeah,
of course. Yeah. I was looking at them on the internet, and they ask €70 for it.
Yeah.
I think I paid about £8 for mine, and I bought it back in the noughties, and it was on eBay, but I've never seen it since. Mine's aluminium. The cradle is aluminium.
Or aluminum even.
You can get them aluminum too.
Aluminium, yeah.
Aluminum.
But did you go get one with the glass plate on it?
Mine doesn't. I just put a blob of oil on the point of the, on the magnet, and I don't struggle because I've got infinite adjustability of the opposite magnet. I can get the thing to almost fly. You know, if I go until it jumps to the other magnet and then just back it off and put it back on the correct magnet.
Yeah.
The amount of pull in the opposing direction creates very, very little friction on the Neo, on the face of a Neo.
Then you have to shorten the other side also as a point.
Yes, a point on both ends.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of fiddling.
And that has to be in the center of your axle shaft.
Yeah, correct. That's a little bit of fiddling and to get off the correct amount.
Yeah, 2 Dremels.
and that's why I wanted to make it adjustable.
Yeah.
And then you don't have the problem anymore.
Yeah.
Well, for a suggestion for your glass, instead of microscope, get some slide covers. I mean, you can get a whole box of those for almost nothing.
Yeah.
And they're already round.
So can you fill me in on what a slide cover is? Because I'll look for them myself.
Okay, a slide cover, when you're looking through a microscope, you have a slide that has the sample that you're looking at.
Yeah.
It's liquid. You put a lens or slide cover over that drop of liquid, which spreads it out where you can look at it under the microscope.
Okay,
And
so all I
it-
didn't know was the correct name for it.
And all it is a thin round piece of glass.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you. Slide cover.
I might speak to my dentist.
Yeah, for Wayne, the oil on the magnet, the gloss is not so much to reduce friction as it is, most neomagnets are plated. So when the axle spins on the plating, you can score the plating and create problems. So it's not really a friction thing. So the gloss is not a friction thing. It's to stop the plating coming off the neomagnet.
I got you.
I want to circle back to Dennis just for a second on the screws on the back of these. There's this one that has the screws as the manufacturer, and then they are moved to the back.
Yep.
Makes a whole bunch of difference in the handling of the car. You're right.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I bet you prefer them in the back, don't you, John?
On the the screws in the back.
But does it depend on which track? Ninko, Carrera?
Well, this is NSR. We're talking about the
Yeah.
NSR.
Yeah, the track itself.
Oh, I'm sorry, on the track.
So if you use the screws at the back, in the middle, or at the end, does it give it some difference for a Ninko track or for the Carrera track?
Well, I just run on a Carrera track, both here and at the club, and this is the most solid car I have. So I'm going to try it on this new Benetton and see how it does.
And you're running with magnets, correct?
We run with magnets and without. I have all these cars. I have all the cars set up both with magnet and without. I have a Benetton with and without. So I will try it both ways.
Okay.
But I have found that with the NSR Formula Ones, their motor has a lot of magnetic downforce all on its own.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
30 grams.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll find the screw positioning less critical with magnets than without magnets.
Sure.
Similarly, on a smooth wood track, it will be more pronounced, the differences, than it will on a plastic track.
And I have found that with a magnet, I want the body tighter, and with non-magnet, I want it looser.
All righty, looks like
Flexible.
we're ready to move. Are you done, Henry? I'm thinking you're done. Okay, all right, let's move on to Brian. Put his hand back up. Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, guys. Sorry, I put the hand down because I got a Skype call from work. So just a little update on the pan chassis thing. I made a few updates. Why is this not working? I'm trying to post a link in the chat. It doesn't
You're
seem to want to
probably
be
sending
working.
it to your work.
Yeah. To everyone. I don't see the button to send it.
Just hit enter.
There we go. So I made a little YouTube video, a 25 lap on the pan chassis, and I made a few updates on it I want to share with you. I don't know how well you guys can see this. So I made some minor changes to the chassis. The first thing I did is in the back here, I kind of notched the rear pan a little bit and moved this rear lug forward. Before, it was about where the end of that steel wire is, and there was some potential rubbing problems. So I notched the pan and I moved the lug forward. I also beefed them up a little bit. The other thing I did is I extended the hole all the way through the front of the chassis. So now the torsion rod, if you want to call it that, runs that was swift, wasn't it? Ties into the back all the way through the front and can be secured now with grub screws. And then I moved the axle adjustments inward board a little bit for the bottom side and the top side. So there it is. This is what I'm doing right now. Now, the other thing I did is I made up another set of pans that used brass inserts. So it's the same thickness and it adds about 10 grams of weight to the car. Now I ran the car both ways. This is 1/2 inch wide brass. I think it's, I forget how thick it is, but it's almost as thick as that plate is. Performance wise, there wasn't a whole lot of difference, but they felt different, definitely. And my son and I both agreed we liked, on the short course, we liked the lighter car a little bit better. It seemed a little easier to drive, but this is a case where you could have, you know, I have a fairly short plastic track. If you were running your car on different types of tracks, you could set up different size, you know, pans for each track you're running. And it's just a matter of pulling the rod, sliding the pan in, putting the rod back in, and you're done. So
Very nice.
These two pans together weigh about 14 grams. And
Ron, do they still flex up and down a little bit?
oh, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And I find I like it. It seems to run the best with very little movement. I'm less than half a turn off, so I'm getting just a little bit of movement. Seems to work the best for me on my setup. And I don't know if if you get a chance to watch the video, any suggestions? Just keep in mind, this is my first ever magless car, and I was nervous as hell driving it, so it probably could have been pushed a little harder. But I wanted to get through 25 laps without deslotting. So
I watched your video, and the thing that I found, you were driving great as far as I could tell, but you were hitting fast laps like every single lap for the first 10 laps or something like that. So I could tell that you were like, you know, hesitant at first, but yeah, it looked like it was going great.
Yeah, it looked very good.
yeah, well, again, and a lot of this will be my just learning to drive the car, you know, finding my brake points and, you know, and stuff like that. I actually had some guy reach out to me and has already asked me to build him one. You know, and like I said, I'm still playing with it. Overall, it's pretty good. I also did one with a 17K Predator in it, and it wasn't enough motor. And it may have been the particular version I have, same gearing and everything. It was too slow. A little better through the center section, but you know, it lost so much in the straightaways compared to this base Piranha that it really isn't worth. It's easy to drive, but it's almost boring. So the Piranha added a little more excitement to it and things of that nature. So that's where I'm at. Continue to go. Like I said, if anybody's got any suggestions on tuning it, you know, based on what I thought about, maybe just doing some really slow laps so you can see like where it kind of flicks. Somebody in the forum suggested I do a little tire prep, but other than truing them and cleaning them, I'm not really sure what else to do. I did end up going with urethanes. I still run some rubber now and then. And the reason I'm sticking with the urethanes is I don't have a tire truing machine. So trying to deal with rubber, you know, and get them true, whatever, I'm just better equipped to handle urethane. And actually, to be honest with you, after about the first 2 laps, performance-wise, there wasn't enough difference to justify sticking with rubber. I know urethane better. I'm more comfortable with them, so that's kind of what I'm running at them. So
that's fine. You've got 3D printers. You could make yourself a tire true by the time you're done.
Actually, I have one, but I need to modify it because it didn't quite fit the motors I have. It was off a Thingiverse. It was actually not bad, but I also have a mini lathe. I could probably set something up. I don't know if you've ever heard of a TAIG, T-A-I-G, mini lathes. I have one of those with attachments and everything, but I'm not really a machinist. I bought it to make suppressors for air rifles years ago and haven't used it much. So
one of the things you could try on that new chassis is where you have the hinge rods extending all the way forward, right? The set screws under the front axle that are holding the rods. Play around with whether those are loose or tight, because that may change the twist of the chassis a little. And play around with shorter ones so that either they go right through there or they don't go through there at all. And that may change the chassis.
The length, when I was running the car, it didn't have it, and it still doesn't have set screws in the front. And the reason for the length of the rods is they were kind of original from the 84 mil chassis, and I just didn't. Normally what I would do is I
Yeah, no, I'm just
Run
saying
lots-
that there are possible tuning options there.
Yeah, now, it did add, good stiffness in this respect.
Yeah. Mhm.
I don't know how much you'll be able to see. There's still some twists there,
Yeah. Okay.
but overall, I think I'm in a good spot now. It's just going to be tweaked.
I think you're twisting it more though than the car would twist on a track.
Oh yeah,
probably
yeah.
right.
The body only adds all up. The car weighs 70 grams with the body in this setup. So Mike, mine's skinnier
What
than
cell did
yours.
you run, Brian? What did you have on there? It's just a white car for me.
There's one of his thingy bodies on there.
Yeah, it was the last body I showed that I did on Thingiverse.
I got you. I remember it.
Yeah, that just hasn't been painted yet. So I got one right. I got it right here. So I don't know if you can.
And what's that weigh, Brian?
14 grams.
Perfect.
So
Yeah, you're doing some
Should be an
really,
easy one to
really
paint,
nice
too.
stuff. It's very nice to watch.
I'm kind of proud of the. I like the profile on that one. It's pretty sleek.
Just the whole experimentation and that you're trying so many different things. It's really good. It's so cool.
Sure. Love it.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. It's all your fault.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing again, Brian. Looking forward to more on that. And next up, Mr. Lautenschlager, go ahead.
Moving back to, can you hear me?
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Moving back to Dewan's quest for the 906. I came across this, and our friend Vlad has files for this. I've already put the request in for it, and based on his delivery time, I'll make an attempt to print it for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great.
And that'll probably fit onto one of the Fly 906 chassis. There you go.
Awesome.
All right. That's it for here.
All righty. Thanks, Alan. And does anybody else have anything they want to show and or tell about? Wave your hand if you do. Chris, do you got anything?
I wish I did.
Just making sure because I can't see
I've
it.
gone about as far as I can go with your car. I'm just
Yeah, waiting on.
waiting for stuff.
Yeah, I'll ping Mr. McKenzie and see where he's at on that.
Okay.
John, you did send the bodies to Iceman, right?
Yeah, hopefully he'll get them. If he doesn't, I've got more parts. I know a guy who makes them, so no worries.
Yeah, I'll make sure he's got them and see where he's at, and we'll get an update on that. I don't see him in the chat. He was in last week for a little bit, but I don't see him on today. But anyways, yeah, no big deal. So good stuff, gentlemen. And Jeremy popped in. All right, do you want to do a show and tell, or do you got a club corner you're ready for?
I just have questions. I don't know where we don't really have like a Q&A session. My question is on chassis that you're this is for scratch builders. I'm just trying to get into scratch building. And one of the things I've noticed, like on this car, the distance between this brace and this brace on pretty much any car I look at is between 20 to 25 millimeters for that gap. Why is that such a large gap when the gears are only 10 millimeters wide? It seems like you could get more tire on it if those were moved inward. It just seems weird to me. Like every time I look at the pre-built little bars that you can buy to start your axles with, they're always about 20, 25 millimeter. Is there a reason for that, or is it like a tripoding effect maybe?
The further you can space the rear bushings apart, it stabilizes the rear axle a lot more.
So is that preferable? The stability is preferable to tire width, so you give up a little bit of tire
compromise between the two.
Does that just seem to be about the sweet spot, 20, 25 millimeter?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I ran a lot of the 124 scale cars at 19 millimeters, right? That three quarter inch bracket. there's a couple of things. If you're scratch building and you have a bracket at the back, and then you start with rods going rails going forward, the closer they are together, the softer the chassis is in terms of torsional flex. So you often want it wider to make it stiffer. But as Chris said, the number one reason is to get the rear axle as stable as possible. So the bearings or the bushings should be as close to the wheels as you can get them, and then it's the width of the wheel and the width of the body that's going to dictate where they are. And I guess between 3/4 of an inch and 1 inch is just a really good compromise.
All right, I'll leave that part alone. I was playing. Can you see the screen over here?
Yep.
Yes.
So this is a Brian Gipperling creation. I took his. And I was trying to figure this out. So I made mine a little thinner, so it's only, like 16 millimeters instead of a 20 millimeter gap in here. And then I think I took part of Greg Galb's design up here for the way the motor holds in there. And then the other thing I was trying to experiment with was I ran a hole through the body itself to come all the way out the front here. And I thought if I put 2 wires in there, it might be a little more stable, because one of the problems I had with the chassis is there's way too much flex for me to drive it. But I mean, obviously Brian's doing way more work than I am with it. And then the other thing I did was I made the pans a little wider. I don't know if I have that here. Well, I made the pans a little wider so it would fit like a standard Parma. And I think he's already done this. I moved these forward because the tires were rubbing a little.
Will the flex change when you do 90% infill?
I tried 100%. I've tried everything. It's just these are only like 4 millimeter wide plastic rails. So they just when you get on it, it just wants to bend a little. So there was just nothing I could do.
And you can do crossbars in it.
Yeah, I could probably do crossbars. I put a little infill in here thinking that would stop some of it, but it's really in this spot here is where the chassis just wants to flex every time you goose it, for me anyway. But
always make those thicker.
Yeah, I could do thicker. I was going to try the wire, like piano wire through here would give it instant hardened ability.
That's a good idea.
I don't know if it'll work
see
or
what
not.
I did?
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier. Yeah,
I ran it.
I'll follow you. I'm just going to copy yours again and see what I can do to make it fit for mine. But I was just trying some different things to stiffen it up, because that was my only problem, was it was just too flexible. But flexible is good on a magnet track, but I'm not sure how it's going to work for me on a wood track.
Okay, now this is the 84 millimeter chassis. I haven't updated that chassis at all. So what I have is the 75 millimeter chassis. So I haven't made that one public yet, and I probably won't until I get it finished, because it's
Listen, we all stand on the back of giants.
Running the layer through it, I mean, you're accomplishing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I think so. And then I added from here. I noticed you had chipped away at this bottom. I just wanted mine flat, so I could put like a flat wood guide on here, but it's all the same.
Yeah. Looks great. It looks great.
No, it's because of you. Thank you. That was all. Those were all the questions I had.
Why would you fill in the space under the flag?
Why would I fill that in? Just because when I looked at his original design, I thought I'm going to crash once and it's going to snap. So I thought I'd give it a little more beef, like a little more thickness right there.
Yeah, but there is a reason that it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what the reason. What's the reason?
To lower the chassis.
Can somebody explain it in better English than me?
Yeah, I mean, you're lowering the front ride height by raising the guide a bit, Jeremy. So
okay,
you may want to, if you're trying to beef it up a little bit, maybe beef it up on the top side.
Okay.
And leave the recess. It just allows you to get the front of the chassis lower to the track when you have a step in the guide like that.
Okay, yeah, I'll move that up above that.
And then just add whatever you need on top and further back to give you some help there if you think you need it.
Because the space is
could you make that flat pan brass?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you could probably put like a way to slide a piece of brass in there or something.
Kind of keep it from doing that torsional wiggle.
Yeah, maybe.
Jeremy, can you put that pick back up?
Oh yeah.
On the Tinkercad you had?
Sure. Is that back up?
Yep.
Yeah.
The other thing I did was I extended these down a little further. I don't know if it's going to help any.
It will if you want to run a long can motor. You got to run a short can otherwise.
Yeah.
I changed the front end on mine a little bit. Well, actually, it looks like you beefed it up even more than I had, so.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, but I'll change this around, move this up, and then put the wire runs through later.
But I think your blue one will work better with your guide, to be honest with you.
Yeah, maybe.
Have
You
you,
definitely let the front end sit lower.
have you printed one of these yet, Jeremy?
I printed one, but it didn't come out so well, so I got to print it again. I just haven't had a second chance. When I
And-
printed it the first time, these holes I couldn't get the wire through there, and I was like,
Okay.
ah, shit. So like it filled itself in. I
And
just
how many degrees of guide rotation do you get side to side in the front?
I have never measured it, so I have no idea.
It
doesn't bind or anything, but
Yeah, well, no, it's not binding. One of the biggest reasons that plastic car chassis break at the guide hole is there's not enough guide rotation. So the edge of the guide hits along where your arrow is on that side, right? Yeah,
So
you can do that. You
cut
need
that out like that.
probably, if you can get somewhere between like around 60 degrees either side, if the guide doesn't hit the guide tongue and load it, it won't break.
Okay.
It's only when it slams up against that piece, one of two things happen. Either you break the guide post hole or you break the blade on the guide.
Chris, the original post on there, you know, the ramped angle things gave 60 degrees of rotation in each direction.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean,
yeah,
yep, that's fine. I mean, the more you can have, the happier you are. You'll never break a guide.
all right. Yeah. Like I probably don't, I'm not going to go any further. This is his thing. I just wanted to use this for reference when I start building out a brass and figuring out what works, what doesn't. It's easier to mock it up here, print it and try it than it is to do a whole brass one and try it.
You're hurting my feelings that you're not even going to print one.
Well, no, I'm saying I'm going to print it and play with it, but I try to make this out of brass is what I would like to do. Like I even looked at seeing how much it would cost to make this out of 3D printed out of metal. And it was like $98. And I thought, well, we're good. I'll stick to doing it by hand. I'm cool. So no, that's a cool, very cool product, Brian. That's why I copied you. So.
Very nice.
Jeremy, did you ever figure out your answers to your 1/32 scale production brass chassis?
No, I got Dennis is sending me some bodies finally because
thank you.
Thank you, Dennis,
You're
because I was just
welcome.
having trouble finding anything interesting. It's all like this. Everybody in my club has the same 3 cars, and I just can't stand it. So that's my first thing. I'm gonna reach out to you and Dennis, try to get in both of your queues for a brass chassis one of these days.
And this is body wise. Are you trying to create something like WOMP size, or what are you trying to do?
Well,
it's the International 32 size.
Yeah,
Okay.
most of us run International 32 stuff, but there's 2 classes where you can do anything you want. So that's
Okay.
when I reach out to you guys, I'm going to find out what you suggest
Okay.
and go from there.
Yeah, I think you'll like the ones that I sent. Some
love
of
all
them
those.
some of them come from ProTrack, and some of them I don't even know where they came from. The Volvo British touring car ones that I sent you are from Better in the UK.
All right,
guys, I gotta go. So I'll see you next week.
Be good.
Yeah, I'm going to try. For those of you in London, I'm off to watch Tottenham beat up on Frankfurt, so that's why I'm leaving.
Enjoy the game.
I will.
Keep fingers crossed.
Yep. See you guys.
One quick, don't go, Dennis. Was your LMP open race, was that a magnet race?
Yes.
Okay.
Crazy. Carnage.
Well,
on the second lap.
Yeah, the guys were down in the 4 somethings, and the car that I set up was nowhere near fast enough. And then I made a big mistake in that race because everybody was running silicones but me, and I was running rubber tires, and every time I came off, I ran into whatever muck and rubbish was around the edges of the track, picked it all up on my tires, and had absolutely no traction, even with magnets. Anyway, see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and get any club corner in, and then we can open up the floor for more Q&A. Does anybody have any past, present, or future more than one person driving a slot car activity they want to report on, now is the time. Jim is ready to go. Go ahead, Jim.
Okie dokie. Let's see here. Here we go. We had our NorCal 32 race this last week. This is a brand new graphic that one of our guys, Ian Douglas, has put together for some other stuff we're doing. So NorCal 32 NorCalSlotCar.com is our website. The race reports and everything are on there. We had our monthly race at Motown. We had 13 entries, a couple new people, a couple old people, and regulars and so forth. So it's going pretty good in these different racetracks that we're running on. Just a real quick race report. We had 13 entries. We didn't get everybody back corralled so we could get a group picture at the end. But this is the Group C grid, the podium's in the front. And I let somebody drive my Electric Dreams car from the Electric Dreams Jaguar that I ran down there in this race. Rebuilt the NorCal specs because we don't allow those steamroller tires. And for the second race in a row, the Jaguars did not win. So we don't have to worry about banning the Jaguars. So that's a good thing. The F1 race, same thing. We had 13 entries in this, podiums there. Ian, the gentleman that put together the graphic for us and is doing our website, won the race in a dominant fashion. And it's all about, if you look really closely, the car on the left finished second, lost the wing halfway through the race. My car is the car on the right, which is a custom livery I did with the Senna helmet. But if you look really close at Ian's car, look at those tires.
Which one?
They're very glossy.
Car in the middle. Car in the middle in the front, the silver and black.
Oh yeah, they're narrow.
They're
really
they're narrow and tall.
Right.
This is the solution. That's a stock tire on the left on a 13mm wide wheel, which is an option wheel for the F1. The tire on the right is the stock wheel, which is 10mm wide, even though the tires are 13mm wide. He narrowed them down so it's a 10mm wide tire and utterly dominated the race by 2 or 3 tenths of a second, because this is a spray glue track. And we do try to clean it now and then, but it's still got a lot of spray glue residue on it. And this car, very much like my car in Group C, because my car in Group C, I ran the stock slotted tires that come in the box. And the tires on my Group C car, the narrow tires on his F1 car just rolled through the glue. It wasn't even close. So I think we've got a pretty good handle on a setup for these. And we've shown this to everybody, so we're sharing it. It's not something we're trying to keep secret. We put setups on our cars on our NorCal website. So, but it was interesting that he found a way to roll through the glue. Doesn't aesthetically, I agree, it doesn't look great because they're little bitty tires. The same diameter, they're just a lot smaller and not narrower in width. So that worked really well. Somebody mentioned, and I didn't want to put it up, but here's the Mansell car. This is the NSR Mansell car with the Mansell helmet, and you can see that. What is the brand on that? I forget that Electric Dreams has. The helmets really make a difference on the car. The car on the left is a custom built Benetton, just the generic helmet. But man, when you put that helmet on, it sets the car off so nicely.
Sure.
And this is coming to Northern California. So we've only been running 2 classes at the commercial tracks. We run 10 or 15 at the home tracks. But the commercial tracks we have to limit because of what they can stock and everything else, and it's just easier. And we're trying to get the groups together, the different factions of tracks in Northern California for common rules, and we've only had 2 or 3 like that. So Revo Slot's coming, and we're going to run just the GT cars. We haven't set the rules, but it's basically going to be stock. I don't see a practical way to limit to stock rear tires without a durometer, and I'll go through a bunch of crap I don't want to go through. So we'll probably open it up to any Revo Slot rear tire. So that'll be open. But other than that, it'll be a stock class. We're setting we're also trying to figure out a ride height rule, because after watching James Cleave's video, which is very good, by the way, on how to set one of these, his tires look like rubber bands in the front. And obviously, he did it for a reason, but I think they look terrible. And most of the people in Northern California want to keep the semi-stock appearance of these. So we'll probably have a minimum tire diameter front and rear.
Good for you.
And they sit when you put these at about, I think I set my rear tires to about 20 millimeters, and it's about 80 thousandths ride height. But these cars, because they're so heavy and the chassis brings the center of gravity down because it's aluminum, they run really good even on these spray glued tracks. So this is going to be our Revo Slot Racing in Northern California. So that's going to be starting probably at our next race in November. And that's about it for NorCal for this week.
Good stuff.
We're gonna do them also in a few months. At the moment, I'm prepped 3 of them for Oxygen. So and they do well on digital wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, they run really well. I looked at all the videos online. There's 4 or 5 on how to set them up, and I used some of the techniques that they did. You know, little insulation between the 2 chassis pieces, breaking the gear in.
Yeah.
Truing the tires, gluing and truing the tires, obviously, but they handle amazingly well, and they're quick. They're running their lap times on our commercial track. Just with the limited time we've run them, I've just run it like once on the track. They're a couple tenths, 2 or 3 tenths slower than our Group C cars.
Mhm.
But by the time we get them going and get them tuned, they'll be probably almost as fast as a Group C car. So that's, you know, not bad at all.
No.
And they run and they race really well. One of the guys ran mine. He goes, "This drives like a 24 scale car because of the weight and the slip in it. And it doesn't quite feel like a rubber tire car. It feels, you know, somewhat, I'll just say somewhat like a 24 scale car in the way it drives." So I think it's going to make a great class.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we always enjoyed the Revo slots when we raced them. All right, good stuff, Jim. And next up is Mike. What you want to talk about? Gotta unmute. There you go.
There we go. I had a debacle this week. I had what turned out to be a controller that was erratic on brakes. So sometimes it would break and sometimes it wouldn't. It would stay just on a little bit. And I had so many crashes, I can't believe it. I think the one race I had 19 crashes, which is, you know, I crash more than the other guy does, but because I tend to have red mist. But this was ridiculous. I mean, I just really had a bad day. But it was fun anyway. And of course, then you have to push harder because you got to make up time, right? And so you make more mistakes.
More mistakes, yeah.
Yeah. So it all in all, it was not my best day of racing, but it was good fun. And
Mike,
the videos
what was your controller doing?
When I released it, it would not go to the break point. It would not shut off. So when I released it, it wasn't braking at all. It just kept cruising, but it didn't do it all the time. Yeah. So I never knew when it was going to do it or when it wasn't. So I just have to clean the stop, I think, is what the problem is.
Normally,
what brand of controller?
Pots are gone.
What's that?
The pot, the resistor.
No, I mean, you're running True Speed controllers, and it's the stop that was causing the problem, I think.
Yeah.
Was the trigger coming all the way back, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not mechanical.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've got an adjustable brake pod on there?
No, just sensitivity.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for the digital.
My DeFalco does that if I don't clean that contact between the contact points. If I don't clean them, about every 2 or 3 months, I'll get intermittent brakes. So I just have to clean it every once in a while.
Yeah, that's what's got to be done here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, break out the Q-tip and some Inox and give them a good scrub, and should be good.
Yeah.
And
yep,
be sure to,
that's
calibrate.
what I'm going to do
before the A main.
I sprayed that WD-40 contact cleaner in there. I've sprayed that in there and loosened them up.
Does the True Speed controller brake stop, Mike? Does that hit a pad or does that hit a threaded bolt?
I think it's a pad. Let me look.
I know that there's a pad on the trigger. I'm not remembering what that touches.
It hits a pad.
Okay.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, all the Professor motors are your full speed and your brake are both, the contacts are threaded brass bolts. But if this is a pad,
Yeah. And looking at it, it's pretty dirty
yeah, well, that's not.
and also scored.
Yeah.
So
I feel it right away, and when it's dirty, I clean it right away because it doesn't feel good.
well, it was interesting because it was so intermittent. It would do it like, once in a while and at odd places in different parts of the course. So it was difficult to predict when it was going to do it. And I couldn't figure out whether it was me or the car for quite a long time. But afterwards, I realized after a couple times that even letting off the brakes in the middle of the straight, it still coasted a couple times. And that's what made me come to that conclusion. So anyway, a bad day of racing is better than a good day at work.
Yeah,
That's true.
For sure. All right, thanks, Mike. And it looks like Henry's got some club stuff to talk about.
Oh, hey, Greg. Greg, just before Henry goes,
Sure.
Jim Rose was talking about those helmets at Electric Dreams. They're called Interlagos.
Interlagos miniatures.
Right.
And they're basically out of stock right now, but I have put in a couple of calls and they're reordering. But they're all hand done, and
right.
The guy who actually makes them in Brazil is had some family issues, so he's sort of behind on his order fill rates.
Yeah, Electric Dreams only has Nicky Lauda, AJ Foyt, and Helio Castroneves in right now.
Yeah.
Sounds like an opportunity for
everybody
somebody
know.
to make their own.
AJ could drive anything, so we'll put him in Formula One cars.
All right, thanks, Frank. Go ahead, Henry.
Do you see the share screen? Can you see the share screen?
Yep. I realized the video's playing now. I couldn't hear anything.
Correct. If you want some comment, you can.
That's fine.
But it says by itself, we had a wonderful time in Eindhoven. I think 40 members, 40 drivers is a lot.
Yeah.
And I was with Sebastian Altena, that's the Wonder Boy over here.
So you're driving as a two-man
Yeah, as a team. Yeah, so 20 cars, 40 drivers. And we both had to drive 3 hours and divided on the Ninko track and the Carrera track. So that's, and I never drove that Carrera track, so it was a different cookie over there. And I didn't have spend any time to train on it. So I have to learn it while we're racing. This track I know a little bit. This is the Suzuka. But the challenge is because you're driving on an Inco track and a Carrera track. It's a whole different ball game.
Did you change the setup between tracks, or just the same setup?
No, we didn't change the setup, and we didn't change the throttle also of your regulator. A little bit more brake, but that's it.
That looks like a really long track, Henri.
It's the biggest one we have.
It's huge.
Henry, in the comments that went by real fast, it said something about something in water or some kind of liquid for 5 hours. What was that about?
Liquid?
Yeah, I think
in the motor.
You were breaking in a motor there, right?
Oh, that's also an interesting part, because we were breaking the motor in with distillated water for about 5 hours, and it definitely give a difference, because your magnets in the motor are more rounded and got more yeah, contact. And it gives it gives about it gives me about 3-4 kilometers per hour.
I'm just impressed you're doing what is essentially an endurance race with Formula One cars.
Hang on, Henry, you're saying the breaking in did what to the magnets?
He's mistaken.
he means brushes.
Brushes.
He meant
Brushes, yeah.
Okay.
This is non-magnet, right?
This is no magnet. No.
Yeah, but it's the NSR motor.
This is the Carrera track. Did you see how long that is?
That's so crazy.
That's
It's
great.
taking ages to come to the end.
That's
But you can win a lot over there with braking.
Is this in a setup in like a business, or how do they afford this?
They asked a lot of money to drive there.
Okay.
That Carrera track looks like an HO track, for crying out loud.
I know.
I took a flight and went to an event here in the summertime this year. It's a fantastic venue. First floor. It was very hot.
Wayne, was that when you were roommates with Ari?
Yeah, correct.
I understand, Wayne, you still can't go back for how many years now?
Henry, will we be back in January?
What is in January?
I'm asking you if the endurance on the Suzuka circuit will be running again in January.
Well, I don't know. No yet. No, never. It's tomorrow does this, and he talked with Eindhoven, but tomorrow we had the 4th place, and the first two at our home teams, and the German team. I've never seen them, but they were good. But this was a very long day because we were there at morning at 8, and at 10 o'clock it was done.
That is a long day.
Can you stop the share screen?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, it was a wonderful day. I think for a small country, 40 people who comes to drive, that's a lot. And they're going to do it next year. So it was a success.
There were a lot of relatively new racers at that event, right?
I think 1/3, something about that, because there are a few partners from them who drove, but I saw them training the last weeks, and you can see on the Excel sheets from the club how much they were driving. And we have 25 members who drive the F1, and they drive them already for about 1 year, 1.5. So they know the tricks, and it's their own track. So it's always difficult to compete with them.
Yeah.
And we drove it for the first time because we don't drive this NSR F1 at our club. So it was challenging. Yeah, sure, you can see some of them were new, and they didn't drive too well, but they have a partner that drive very well.
So how long did each driver drive for before it was switched over to the next driver?
Every stint was 15 minutes, and you can choose if you want to drive 2 stints or 3 stints, but you have to do your equal share. You can also, it was the German guys, I think they have specialists. One drove 3 hours on and on the Carrera track, and the other one drove 3 hours on the Ninko track.
Wow.
So I think they specialized in something, and they were first, so it pays off. But 3 hours driving on and on, that's a little bit too much for me.
What kind of drug testing you guys doing?
I was gonna say amphetamines.
Ketamine would focus you right like a laser.
And you have to be focused because what is it, Wayne? 25 meters, the tracks.
Honestly, I don't think I ever learned, but I'll tell you this: it's a 6-lane layout, that Ninko, and it takes quite a bit of learning because it's corner after corner after corner. There isn't much of a straight. There are places you get to full throttle, obviously, but it's quite a learn. I'll be better next time I go.
Yeah, I posted the video on Slot Forum, and a lot of guys they did their remarks. So they were terrible drivers. They don't know how to handle the car, etc., etc. I think, guys, don't you have anything positive to tell?
Wayne,
Yeah.
did you drive both tracks?
Yeah.
No, I only went to race on the Suzuka Ninko circuit. It was a digital event, and of course, as being digital, you can choose which lane you run in.
Right.
Of course, you spend most of your time in the easier lanes and not the gutter,
Yeah.
unless you crash.
To be honest, you know, Sebas, he did the difficult lanes. 1 and 6.
Does anybody know in real, like in our time, 24-hour races, if you scaled that to 1/32, what would that be? Is that like 4 hours? It's got to be a real conversion, right?
Well,
Like for-
if this, it's less than an hour.
Is it? Okay.
Well, 24 hours and 32, it's less than an hour. 40 something minutes.
Yeah, you just divide by 32, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and we did it time 6.
So you guys raced like 8 weeks. Okay.
But
and an endurance Formula One race, which is a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
It's actually 45 minutes.
If the circuit was scaled to 132, you wouldn't be able to see each end of it.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, the guy in your car can't see to one end of it.
I was a little bit afraid for the pinion, and but the car handled well. We didn't use any lubing because we centered the middle. So she told me there was no problem at all.
Right.
All
Good,
right.
good event, good race.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and great job getting 4th place against a bunch of home racers there.
Yeah, we will do next time better, I hope.
He did have an ace up his sleeve, didn't he?
Yeah, he did have the top driver.
Well, at least this way, Henri, you'll get invited back.
Yeah. Plus, maybe practice next time.
Yeah, sure, for the Carrera track.
For sure, yeah.
I drive Carrera at home, so I thought it was easy, but it wasn't.
Much larger track.
Yeah. Now you get lost of if it's so long, you get lost of the feeling with your controller and the car.
Yeah.
Because it's so far away. Then sometimes you come around the corner and you have to do your finger a little bit forward and forward. Oh yeah, I've got it. It's in a small track. It's much easier.
Yeah. All right. Well, sounds like Club Corner is over. And if anybody has any questions they want to ask, or Wayne, what you got?
I've got one more for Club Corner. I don't think I raised my hand though. I'm out at a 2-day event this coming weekend. It's another Disca digital event. We have 2 classes of cars racing. We have a GT3 race, 2 90-minute races during Saturday, followed by an open practice session of World Endurance category. And then on Sunday, the World Endurance will be a 6-hour enduro. It's 10 teams or 9 teams or 10 teams have entered, mostly 2-man teams, and it's being held at Rockingham. So if you're tuned to my YouTube, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, then
well, you know what, Wayne, can I make
footage.
Can I make a request of what you post? You got to post more because it's like these little tasty tidbits, and yeah, please post more. Yeah, especially with a gathering like that.
All the comments that I've read anywhere have said, please longer clips or longer videos. So yeah, I take that on. I might try and do something else a little bit different. It all depends on getting the time. I'm entered this weekend with a complete rookie. They have driven a slot car in their lifetime in the past, but they've never tried anything digital. And he stands a chance of being acceptably good because he's a very good radio control car racer. But I'll be out there bringing this guy up to speed as soon as I can, and then we'll just do what we do. I've got.
And please don't forget your Murray Walker comments because that's half the fun.
Oh, you like the yeah? Okay, yeah.
But John, it's very difficult because we are with a team of two, and I have to be marshalling for 3 hours and driving for 3 hours. So when you have the moment that you can make pictures or film, you know, that's always difficult when you participate in a match.
Well,
Exactly.
you know what? Listen, I got to tell you, our expectations are high, so up yours, man.
Yeah. Just do it.
You can tell John's feeling better.
Hey, but Wayne,
Yeah,
I
guys?
saw the last video of your digital disco race. How many disco races you have in a year? Because we have only one.
We've not been too bad this year, have we? We've had about 3 or 4.
Nice.
This is about the second one. I think it's the second one this summer or this year in Rockingham. I've done one at North Staffs, which was the last one you saw, a new circuit to me. And then we have the Le Mans, so that makes 4 at least. And they're big deal events. I mean, I'm preparing 2 cars right now, and I've spent hours and hours on, and they're still not completely ready.
No,
you did well. Wayne, you did well, didn't you?
Yeah, well, we did and we didn't. We finished 5th, but we led the race from the start to the 20 minutes into the 12th hour of 12.
Yeah.
And we had a 145 lap lead and managed to lose that in the last 40 minutes because our car's lights went out and we couldn't repair them.
But before you talked in the show about 25 minutes how bad the car was.
Up yours.
Did you ever figure out your light problem?
Yeah, what did
Never figured it out. No, it's the body shell has had a complete light kit replacement, and it goes again this week. It's the same car.
Now, are you going to be racing against Alan? Is Alan participating as well?
Yes, I believe so.
And probably Mr. Underwood, and like that's John
That's
Underwood's
correct. And Nick Kerswell, who joins the group, and yeah, all the regulars. All the British regulars, anyway.
So they're working on their cars right now while you're talking with us. Uh-oh.
He has the mechanics.
I've got one or two very intriguing little experiments to try during practice. That a couple of things, because this is the first time I'm actually preparing cars for these. All I've ever done is join teams, and so this one is my build, and one of them is a stock production car, so you know it should be relatively straightforward. But the other one is the same car that we raced in the 2x6, and I've got that now, and we fixed that up. I'm doing a few things to it that weren't done at the 2x6, and they should make a difference. And if it makes it better, it does, and if it doesn't, I'll just revert.
It's a lot of work, building a car.
Yes, and to get it not only working but likely to last, because as you know, with digital races, you find yourself involved in incidents that you just wouldn't have had if you were in your own lane running your own race. So, you know, you have to build some resilience into it, and that's the trick.
Yeah, it's crossover between quick and dirty.
All right, Don, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just a little bit of follow up on what I was talking about a few minutes ago on my idleness. Those 1 cars aren't the only ones I've been working on. This one rebuilt and working.
Oh, is that a 124th or 132nd?
It's 132nd. This is a Revell.
Nice.
And now I haven't done anything to the bodies of these particular cars. I just made the chassis work again. And this is another GTO Revell.
That's basically
different setup.
You're basically doing restoration to original, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, were those with the bushings that you needed to replace and everything there?
Well, one of them had the bushings in it. That's how I found out what I needed for the first one I got that didn't have the bushings. And then the bushings I put in that one are the nylon ones that I sawed the bottom off of, because that's basically what they did with them. But as far as rebuilding stuff, I have been quite active in doing that. All of these are with the correct motors in them as they supposedly came.
All right. Now that plastic chassis, did it have a little drop arm there too, Don?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I remember those.
Now, not all of these are Revell chassis. There were some other companies that made them, but almost none of them put their name on them. But all these that I'm showing you are all working, functional chassis.
And hermetically sealed. It's awesome.
So,
are you supplying a bunch of retro IROC cars for a local racetrack?
no, you know, I actually have more fun playing with the older stuff than I do some of the newer.
Actually, there's a question. There used to be a retro or vintage race in France every year. I guess they don't have that anymore.
They still have that Bordeaux.
Oh, do they really? Yeah. Do you participate in that, Chris? Or
I have, not for the last couple of years. Obviously, getting there has been a bit of a problem. I hope to go again next year.
Yeah, because you had to use like really old, like just nothing but vintage parts and build real vintage cars, and then they would race them.
Right.
Yeah, in France.
Yes. Yeah.
I know one of the slot forum members, Deckers is his name, and he goes over there. They drive 16Ds or so, something like that. And
16Ds, 26Ds, 36Ds.
And I saw on the bench, and his car was driving around 50 kilometers per hour.
Right. For all you guys that race modern plastic cars, if you saw a modified 60s car go around, you'd freak out.
Doesn't it also coordinate with the Beaujolais Nouveau as well that comes out at the same time?
No, I don't think so.
Rebuilding these though is a trip, because some of them are very unique.
Correct.
And this one that I'm just started working on this past weekend has kind of blown my mind. I actually had a SP40 motor that will fit in this, but the real wild part about it is it has one hell of a major offset between the axle and the pinion.
Right.
Now, I have found the gear that is supposed to go in this. I haven't purchased it yet, but
wasn't that a Revell chassis? That 1/24th scale?
no, it's Renali.
Renali. Oh, sorry.
But
and are those cars from the 60s?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there were some
That's-
pretty heavy drugs in the 60s, boy.
And that's a 13 UO in that, is it not, Don?
What's that?
The motor's a 13 UO in that.
It's an SP40.
Yeah, which is a 13 UO. That's just the Revell's code number for it, but it's like a 16D. This is a 13 UO, so it's a little skinny thing.
Right. Well, the reason I'm going with it is because I've never been able to acquire an SP80, which is really what goes in here.
Right.
Dewan, wipe off the drool.
And you run them on 12 volts?
Oh, I can run them on whatever voltage I want, but yes, my test track is set up at 12 volts, which is just a polycarb basic track.
Now, Chris, you can get 60s cars to run just as well, or if not better than modern cars, can you not?
The ones that we run in Bordeaux will wipe the floor with any of the current plastic stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I was being nice about it, but yeah. Okay, thank you.
I'm all fixed up for any kind of electrical connection you can think of here.
Probably not going to run those cars around that little track though. The cars that Chris is talking about.
No, you need, no.
In fact, I've actually considered redoing my track just so I can run these cars, because I don't want to tear up all of my.
All of those will all run just fine on your. You've got, what do you have, Carrera or?
I have both Scalextric and Carrera power bases.
Those cars will run absolutely just fine on Carrera track.
Well, they will when I get it set up to run analog. Right now it's digital, so.
Yeah, no, but I mean the track surface and the power for all of the 16Ds and FT16Ds that you've showed me are all perfectly happy on Carrera track. They're pretty low performance motors in the whole scheme of things of the 60s, and they'll be just fine. They don't draw a ton of amps. You'll be happy on Carrera track.
Plus the track itself is great for running both 24th and 132nd.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's zero issues.
But will you need a long track, because if it runs 50 kilometers per hour?
No.
The ones that Don showed.
None of the motors that Don has showed are. Most of the motors that Don has showed there would be the equivalent of sort of 20 to 22K S-cans that we currently run.
Okay.
Now, they go up from there. You can buy different armatures, different magnets, all kinds of stuff. So I've got FT16Ds that have all been completely redone that'll do 85 to 90,000 RPM. But then the next step up is what we currently run in tiny motors, which are well over 200,000 RPM. So speaking of which, I'll just do I don't have any pictures, but we started our fall season at our raceway this Saturday. We had 18 entries on the 6-lane, 135-foot Polycar track that we have. And we ran, it's a home series because it's Ernie's track, which is MR slot car. We ran any MR slot car, any MR slot car parts. And because it's Polycar track, we ran the G25 tires, which have been developed pretty much exclusively for the Polycar track. And then after that, upstairs, we ran our 124 scale Eurosport cars. And they are just, we haven't had those out on the track for a couple of years, and I just forgot how terrifying they were. They're just absolutely terrifying.
Now, did you actually, how did you fare in the racing then, Chris?
Well, you've raced with me a fair bit. I won the
This is why I ask. It's a setup. Come on.
Well, no, I won the race downstairs, and I was second on the Eurosport 24 scale stuff.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Now, I know you don't have a camera for yourself, but feel free to take photos of Ernie.
Well, it was basically, to be honest with you, I thought we were going up to the cottage, but because of my knee, we decided not to go up. But I figured I could go and hobble around the track and take a couple of cars there. So it was a very, very much a last minute thing.
I have a question.
Yep.
Does somebody know something to how to build? I've looked on YouTube, the Polycar.
Yep.
Oh, you got Chris. Chris will tell you how to get that thing running like.
I have a race in 40 days in Friesland with this car. I don't know a lot about it.
Well, I mean, do I have pictures? How do I do this? I tell you what, why don't we, are you going to stick around we can either do it now, I can show some pictures, or I can wait until we're on the non-recorded time. Up to you.
That was a great time.
Okay, let me figure out.
Well, you also did a thread about how to improve the
Yeah, I've
performance.
done a few of them. I gotta figure out.
While he's looking for a picture, I have a question.
Yep.
Can you put something like a Tech Power DC variable power supply on a Carrera digital track?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't. You
No
just
problem.
can't go, you can't go higher than 18 volts or so.
18 volts. Yeah.
And if
So
you
you
go
go
too
lower.
low, then it won't function. But otherwise, yeah.
Okay.
That's the first thing I did.
Say again.
That's the third thing I did. Make a variable power supply.
Yeah.
Yeah. The important thing is to give it plenty of amps, because the Carrera power supply don't have as many amps as the track can actually use. The control unit is capable of providing more amps to the cars and the track than the power supply can provide. So if you're actually reaching the limit of the power supply, then you'll experience the slowdowns.
I got you.
But if you have a nice power supply with an appropriate voltage and then plenty of amps, then the control unit will be the bottleneck rather than the
Well,
power supply.
this one I'm looking at is 30 volts and 5 amps.
No, don't waste your time with anything less than 10 amps.
10 amps. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I have on both tracks 2 amps. So lane 1, 10 amps, and lane 2, 10 amps. And even if I change, and there are 4 cars, 5 cars on the same track, you notice the difference with 10 amps.
Yeah.
This is a factor that I've brought up in the past for Disco Digital events, and they've got some serious. I think they've got 40 amps of capacity in the Le Mans circuit nowadays. I don't think they used to do, and the way it manifested was not so much in the way that the cars drove, but the trackside lighting was also connected to the rails.
Mm.
And if you go back and look at the 2016, 2017 editions of the race, in Johnny S's YouTube videos, you'll see that in the night legs, the trackside the illumination is actually changing in brightness. It's actually nearly flashing because the voltage is up and down because of the cars running around pulling the power. The voltage was dropping. It's different now. We have solid lighting for the whole darkness now, but that used to happen.
Yeah, sure.
Is there a power supply you guys like over others?
I mean, I've got pyramids, but that's because when I first started, that's what everybody was recommending was pyramids.
Yeah, I'm even for our analog track, I use a pyramid. It's
I buy lab how do you call it? Lab DCs? Lokvoedingen?
Did I hear someone say they use a separate power supply for the lane changes?
I've done that.
I thought I remember hearing someone say it, yeah.
Yeah, but that was mainly because the early Scalextric digital power bases had terrible power transmission, from their power supply to the track. So if you had a lot of lane changers, that would it would pull enough power away from the cars that it was problematic.
You don't use that because like if I go onto analog, my lane changes just lose the power to them, and the cars just go anywhere. And I was thinking about putting a separate one in so I could sort that out.
You have Scalextric digital?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things with Scalextric digital lane changers is if they're powered down long enough, then when they get power again, like for analog, when you pull the trigger, they get power from the track. Sometimes the flippers will straighten up, or the flippers will move during the power up of the lane changer. That's another good reason to do separate power, is so that they're either on or they're off. They're not being on and off from the rails. It's not hard to do, it's just desolder the 2 wires from the rail and power them from something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, all my digital lane changes are powered by the CU, and they have their own power from the CU, and the rest is from 2 lab routing on lane 1 and lane 2. So everything is separated.
Yeah. That's because your track is Carrera digital, so it has to be powered by the control unit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the different current.
Yeah.
So I can drive analog and digital oxygen and digital Carrera.
Yeah.
When I'm racing in digital, it's fine, but when I pull it over to analog, they just seem to be. You end up going through the pit lanes and things like that.
Yeah, the pit lane specifically on my track, the pit lane switches to the lane change position when it powers on. So every time I turn my track on, I've got to go flip that flipper straight so that the cars don't go through the pit lane if I'm in analog mode. So that's the one that I know for sure will always flip to the wrong position when it gets power. The straight lane changers, I have one curved lane changer in my track, but the straight lane changers aren't nearly as bad about that. The pit lane entrance for sure always flips when you turn it on. So
if I powered it separately, that would stop that.
Correct.
Greg, does it also close electric? So opens and close electric? Because Carrera has to drive over a point.
Yeah. Carrera has one solenoid to move it to the lane change position, and then the guide blade hits a mechanical switch that moves it back. Scalextric uses two solenoids to pull one way or the other. So basically, when a car goes over the lane changer and wants to go straight, then the lane changer will pull the flipper so that the car goes straight. And when it wants
that's the same with if I did with oxygen in the Ninko tractor.
No, I think oxygen Ninko is also a sprung, so it doesn't have a reset switch like Carrera does, but it has a spring. So the solenoid holds the flipper for a certain amount of time, and then it springs back.
And it's closed.
And then it automatically springs back closed. Yeah. So the oxygen hardware is designed to work with any system, but you basically set the oxygen hardware.
I've used it because I saw that it works different. Yeah.
Yeah, they tried to make it so it would work with pretty much any of the off-the-shelf digital tracks, depending on how you set it up. But yeah, Scalextric is the only one that doesn't. Yeah, Scalextric is the only one that doesn't have some kind of resetting mechanism. It basically sets itself to whatever direction your car is asking for.
Okay.
Every time you cross over it. The main problem that I found with my track in analog mode, I mean, other than the pit lane flipper, I always have to straighten that back out. But the one curve lane changer I have in my track, in analog mode, the cars going over it will slide just enough to start moving the flipper out to the outside because it's an out to in lane changer.
Yep.
So if the flipper slides out when a car is sliding over it, then the next time the car comes through, it'll change to the inside lane. So I pretty much always put a little piece of tape on that flipper to hold it from being pushed out by cars, driving over it. But most of the other lane changers are all straight lane changers. Most of those are fine. Just when I'm using the track in analog mode, I just make sure they're all going straight rather than lane changing. But once I've done that, most of them stay where they're supposed to be.
Does a lot of people use that corner flipper?
Not so much these days because they're not manufactured anymore. So.
No, okay. No, but when you drive a race, is it a disadvantage? Do they use that for racing a lot in your race? What's the point?
The main reason I have one in my track is as a last ditch effort to get to the pit lane.
Yeah,
so it's basically right before the pit lane entrance.
Yeah. So
that if you hold the lane changer down, you'll end up in the pit lane.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd remove it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not beneficial. I would say the main problem with it is that it's a 90-degree R2 turn. Right, so you can't have anything but a 90-degree R2 turn.
Oh, that's the same way with Carrera. I cannot put it in here, but I was asking about it because it looks like challenging, but
Yeah, and at least with the Carrera one, you've only got 60 degrees that you're stuck with. You can put something else after that, but with the Scalextric one, you've got a whole 90-degree turn you're stuck with for that lane change.
And your sensor with Scalextric is in the middle?
It's in a half straight right before the lane changer.
Yeah, but it's in the middle of the flag?
Yeah, it's in the slot, yeah.
Because I think with Carrera, it's when the car slides, it can miss it.
It can miss either way. And in fact, when the sensor is on the side, like for Carrera, it's less likely to miss because the angle of the car sliding moves it less over when it's over to the side than it does when it's in the middle.
Correct.
It's like
Correct.
the angle, whatever.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can do that. You can achieve that in Oxygen on Ninco too, Henry. If you get the tail out in the wrong place, you can fail to fire a lane changer. Again, because the sensor is in the slot, and if the red moves over a rail rather than pointing down into the slot, then you won't fire the. This is why we move the infrared as far forward as we possibly can to minimize the likelihood of the hanging the back out, causing the missed lane change.
Yeah.
Yeah, the farther forward the LED is, the less of an angle the less it's going to move when it slides less laterally. But yeah, that's why for the longest time for Scalextric users, it's common practice to put your lane changers as far towards the end of the straight as possible and not have any right out of a turn, so that you're not slipping and sliding over the sensor. Because at least with Carrera, they reset straight. So you're not going to end up taking a lane change that you didn't want. You just might not get the lane change you want. But with Scalextric, if you slide out, then you're going wherever that flipper happens to be when you cross over it, which could be going straight or could be changing lanes. So it's more detrimental on Scalextric digital for it to be right outside of it, right after a turn. So we put them at the end of the straight before the turn. Chris, are you ready?
I am.
All right, take it away.
Okay, I got a series of a few pictures here. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. Starting at the back end, Henry.
Some shims, maybe?
Yeah, the way these come, they come with this collar that rubs right up against the bushing face. And the final drive gear runs right up against the bushing face here.
Yep.
So you have two pieces of metal rotating against stationary pieces of metal, which is a complete disaster. So if you have some 5 thou, I have a 5 thou, it's hard to see. I've got a couple of 5 thou spacers between the final drive gear and the bushing face.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple here.
Yeah, that's what I thought about. Yeah.
Yeah, I also have taken this idler gear out, and you can, I don't know how big the picture is, but you can just make out a 5 thou spacer here because this idler tends to move back and forth.
Correct.
So that will smooth out the back end.
And I glue them also, the bushes.
Oh yeah, you gotta, yep.
Because they had a lot of room.
Yep, moving forward. Come on, where are we here? I got 1,000 pictures. Sorry, guys.
And did you take some magnet in the front, some lead in the front, because
oh yeah, there's no question about that. I'm just getting a couple of little setup things for you here. Rather than just sticking lead on, where am I? God, I got thousands upon thousands of pictures. I just had them in a row. Okay.
Yeah, I see him.
That up? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See that?
44.
Okay. One of the big problems with a lot of plastic slot cars, and the Pala cars in particular, is underneath this bushing, there's a big hole, which lets the axle, you can control it with the grub screws mounted inboard for vertical play,
Can you
but
click
you
on
can't
that?
really control the fore and aft play on the axle. So what happens is the front axle tends to want to steer the car all over the place.
Chris, can you click on that? It looks like it might get bigger if you click on it.
Yep.
Bigger?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So it's going to be tough for you to get these, but you can buy reduced diameter. This is a 3/32 bushing, but the inside, the diameter is much reduced. So it sort of almost slips right in. It wasn't made for this purpose, but you can slip them right into the uprights of the Polycar. You may have to use a file just to make them nice and smooth, but you want these to be able to move up and down very slightly so it doesn't bugger up your vertical settings with your set screws. But these bushings take a lot of the fore and aft movement out of the axle, which really reduces the steering effect on the axle and really makes the front end much, much smoother. I use a variation of these bushings on Scalextric and Ninco and any car you can eliminate fore and aft axle stuff. These are particularly sensitive because the car actually is really just quite light.
There are two hub screws on the side, so you can place the front axle.
Sorry.
Right.
Sorry.
There are two grab screws under the axle.
Yes, but they don't let you control fore and aft movement of the axle. They only control vertical movement of the axle.
Correct.
And the fore and aft movement of the axle is just as bloody critical on these things because the front end of them is so light. A couple other things you can do. God, how many thousands of pictures are here?
You might be able, when you pick the next picture, Chris, you might be able to scroll through with the plus and minus at the top of your post image.
Well, yeah, I've got so many bloody pictures in there. I haven't, and every time I click, it goes back to the top. Next thing you want to do.
Oh, okay, I see your LED over there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, LED in a bunch of places. More importantly than the LED, what you'll find is the wires tend to, because of the guide, when the guide twists, these wires tend to lift up.
Yeah.
What they do, they interfere with the bottom side of your axle, creating friction and drag. So what I've done is just take a couple of small little pieces of styrene tubing, glue those onto the base of the chassis, and then run the wires through there.
Yeah.
So that the axle can't, the wires cannot raise and fell the bottom half of the axle.
Yeah.
In order to get clearance, what I've done, I've used an axle, one of those reduced center section bore axles on the front.
Yep.
Which gave me a little bit more room under here. I have used silicone washers underneath the pod lugs to dampen vibrations. I've used some lead weight here, and I've also used chunks of lead weight on the sides of the motor.
Oh, nice.
This car, as far as Apollo, obviously true to all the front wheels, true to the rear wheels, like, you know, all the other stuff that's done. This car is an absolute rocket ship for a Polycar Formula One car.
Yeah.
So I would, you know, when's your race?
Next Sunday.
Okay.
So not this Sunday, but the one ahead.
Okay. I can't get you some of those. I won't be able to get those bushings to you in time for your race.
No. Doesn't matter. I don't think I'm gonna do everything, but I got a few good tips I can work on.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you can find nothing on the internet on it.
Well, and a lot of stuff that you find on the internet, you almost wish you hadn't found on the internet. So,
yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of
crap.
There's a lot of weird stuff out there. So, yeah.
No, but there are a few minor tips that you can do easily.
Speaking of cars from the 60s, this was brought out in 66. This is a Champion 4-rail car with a heavily redone 26D motor. There is no plastic car that has ever been built that will even, they'll just turn away and run and hide if they saw this. They just whimper away into the corner. Having said that, this is not built for our plastic tracks. This needs a big track that Bordeaux is run on and all the rest of the stuff. So
yeah.
Anyway, there you go.
Great example of what you'll be racing in Bordeaux.
Yeah. Well, and that changes every, like, I mean, they have themes every year. So they'll go Formula One car, GT cars, Le Mans, like they'll all go up and back and forth. And some years they'll allow Lexan bodies, and some years it'll be just injection molded, but like, so it's all, it changes all the time, but it's great.
Well, on that note, we're going to end our recording, and you guys will keep chatting about things until next week. Everybody wave bye.
Thank you.
Bye.